My name is Hannah Raksha. I'm a cloud solution engineer here at Oracle, and I want to welcome you to our Day 1 and Beyond hands-on series. Today, we'll be walking through the live labs, replicate data using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure GoldenGate. Here we can see our agenda for the day. First, we're going to create the OCI GoldenGate resources. Second, we'll create the extract process and use Oracle Data Pump to export the data. Third, we'll use Oracle Data Pump to import data as well as create the Replicat process. Fourth, we're going to monitor both our extracts and our replicats. And finally, fifth, we're going to purge any unused trail files. Without further ado, let's get started. Once you're logged into the OCI console, the first thing we're going to do is create our OCI GoldenGate resources. In order to do so, we're going to go to the navigation menu, Oracle Database, and in the top right, select GoldenGate. This will take us to our overview page, where we can see a variety of different resources such as what's new, documentation, as well as some getting started and quick start guides. The first task is to review our deployment. So we're going to select deployments and then OCI GoldenGate deployment. So this here is the deployment details page. We can do things like review the deployment status, launch the GoldenGate service deployment console, edit the deployment's name or description, stop and start the deployment, move the deployment to a different compartment, review any sort of deployment resource information, and add tags. Now, to go ahead and begin this workshop, we're going to start by creating the source connection. From the navigation menu on the left side, we're going to click Connections, Create Connection. We're going to title it Source ATP. Description is optional if you'd like to provide one. Ensure our compartment is selected. Type is autonomous. And since we're using a Live Lab sandbox, you can see here that we've already provisioned both our source and target database. So we're going to do source. And then for our password secret, we're going to use the pre-created secret from the Live Lab pre-created vault. Now, last thing we want to do is under advanced options, network connectivity. You want to make sure that shared endpoint is selected, and then from there, you're good to create. Now that our connection is provisioned, we're going to go ahead and proceed to the next task, which is unlocking the ggAdmin user and enabling supplemental logging. So to do so, we're going to go to the navigation menu, Oracle Database, Autonomous Database. We're going to select our source ATP, and database actions, select database users. For me, it took me straight to the database users page. If you're prompted to log in as the admin using the ATP admin password. So from this list, we're going to locate ggAdmin, which is right here. Select the three dots, edit. Now we see account is locked. We're going to go ahead and toggle it, enter our password, and then apply changes. So it'll come back, confirmation, user altered, updated successfully. Now all we need to do is enable supplemental logging. So going to our SQL worksheet, we're going to enter in two queries. The first is alter pluggable database, add supplemental log data. And then once that comes back, the next is selecting all from DBA GoldenGate support mode, where owner is equal to src_OCI GGLL, or source OCI GoldenGate Live Lab. Here we can see that we had 8 rows selected, the owner which matches our where clause, and then the object name as well as the support mode and full. Now that we've set up our source, we're going to do exactly what we did, but for the target. So going back to my cloud console, GoldenGate page, create another connection, this time target ADW, autonomous. We're going to select our ADW target, same password, and then again in advanced options, just make sure shared endpoint is selected. Then go ahead and create. This will again bring us to our connection information page. And while that's provisioning, we're going to go ahead and go to our autonomous. This time our target, database actions, database users. So exact same thing, we're going to unlock ggAdmin. User ggadmin updated successfully, and then we're going to go to our SQL worksheet to run the same two queries we did on source. So first is successful, and then our second query, which is our select, returns no data found. This is exactly what we want to see because we'll be replicating from our source ATP to our target ADW, so we don't want any data to be in there currently. Moving on to task 5, which is our final task of lab 1, create the OCI GoldenGate resources. We'll just need to assign our connections to our deployment. So going back to our console, all the way back to GoldenGate, we're going to select connections, ensure that they're both active, and then go to deployments, select our deployment, and then the tab assigned connections, and we'll assign a connection. We're going to assign both at once. It'll pretty instantaneously come back saying that the connections were assigned, so we'll go ahead and close that, and we can see the two are in state assigning on our assigned connections tab. With that, we're good to move on to lab 2, create the extract process and use Oracle Data Pump to export the data, which will get us into our OCI GoldenGate deployment console. So mousing over to the launch console, here we have our deployment console. So for username, it's OGGadmin, and the respective password, which can be found in your Live Lab sandbox environment. So once you've logged in successfully, we're brought to the GoldenGate 23 AI deployment console homepage. This is where you'll be able to access the GoldenGate administration, distribution, and receiver services, as well as the performance metric service, and add your extracts and replicats for your data replication tasks. We're going to start by creating our extract process. In order to do so, we're going to expand DB connections, and then our source ATP, and then select tran data. This will pull up the transaction data information page, which is where we'll go ahead and add. At the top there, you can see a little note. Schema or table-wise supplemental logging options must be provided for database replication. So add the desired supplemental logging options for the database table/schemes. This was one of the things we did in the previous lab, along with unlock our ggadmin user. For schema name, it'll be source OCI GGLL, or again, source OCI GoldenGate Live Lab. We're going to leave everything else as default and click submit. Once we've done so, we're going to go ahead and search. So this is verifying that our transaction data schema information has been added. So we can see our source, the 8 tables, which if we think back, when we did our select query, we had 8 tables with full support mode. So with our source set up for extraction, now we'll just have to set up our target. So again, in the navigation menu, we're going to expand it, and then it'll automatically select the first tab, which is checkpoint. We're going to go ahead and write the checkpoint table that we want to use. For us, that'll be source mirror underscore OCIGGLL dot checktable. Now, what a checkpoint table does is if GoldenGate happens to go down while it's in the process of replicating transactions, it'll mark where it went down, and from there, once it's back up, it'll pick right back up from where it stopped. This way you don't lose any transactions, and you don't have to start all over. Now, going back to our home page, we're going to go ahead and add our extract. For extract type, we're going to do integrated extract. Another option is the initial load extract. What the initial load does is provide a logical instantiation method, which allows you to fine-tune the process at both the object and record level. It's particularly useful when you're working with a subset of data, such as a set of small tables, or you're operating in a heterogeneous environment. Now for our integrated extract, we're going to go ahead and add our process name. Description is optional, so we'll hit next. And then our source credentials will be GoldenGate, alias being source. Extract will do E1. Everything else will remain as default. Hit next. And then we're going to toggle critical to deployment health. What this toggle does is enable us to view metrics on our deployment details page and monitoring dashboard in our cloud console. From here, we'll hit next. The last thing we'll have to do is our extract parameter file. So here it has the sort of default basic settings. We're going to go ahead and copy from the lab, and underneath it, paste those lines. We're going to go ahead and create and run. Go ahead and select extracts. And there you can see our extract process in status running with 1 second of lag. So before we export our data using data pump, we'll need to check for any long running transactions. So we're going to go back to our SQL worksheet for our source, and we'll go ahead and run this select statement. So it comes back with no data found, which is exactly what we're looking for. If the query had returned any rows, then we'd have to locate the transaction's SCN and then either commit or roll back the transaction. Since we're set, we can go ahead and export the data using data pump. So back to the cloud console, we're going to go to storage and then buckets. We will create a bucket, name it ADB, LiveLab, store. Go ahead and leave everything else as default and hit create. Should instantaneously create, so we'll go ahead and select it. Now that we're in our bucket, what we're going to do is upload an object. You can optionally enter a prefix. I'm going to leave it blank. Now I have this text file, object-1.txt, that has no information in it. Once it appears, we'll go ahead and upload it, and once it's finished, close. Then select the 3 dots, view object details. We're going to take the URL path and save it for access later. Once we've saved it, hit cancel, select your profile, and then go to your user. Next thing we'll need to do is create a token. Tab on over to tokens and keys, and we'll need specifically an authentication token. So we'll go ahead and generate it. Description, we'll do ADB-token, and we'll generate. Go ahead and copy it and note it down because as it said, it will not be shown again. Go ahead and close that. With our token generated, we're going to go back to our source database SQL window. Go ahead and delete that. We're going to run the following script, but need to replace the placeholders with our username and token value. I'm going to clear the output and then run the statement. It should come back and say PL SQL procedure successfully completed. For our final step of Lab 2, we're going to run the following script to create the export data job using Oracle Data Pump EXP-DP. The only thing we need to do is replace this URI with our own and go ahead and delete the end there, which is the object we created in the bucket. We're going to append the source underscore OCI GG LiveLab dump file instead of our object file. Now just go ahead and run your script. Once the script has completed, it's going to spit out all this red text, which would normally mean an issue has occurred, but what we're looking for specifically is successfully loaded/unloaded, as well as successfully completed. In case we want to double confirm, we can also select DBMS output and see the same thing here at the bottom where it says final job state equals completed. That'll conclude Lab 2. For Lab 3, we're going to go ahead and use Oracle Data Pump to import the data as well as create the Replicat. In order to do so, we're going to go ahead to our target ADW. If you left the tab open, you can just tab on over to it. Otherwise, you can go back through the OCI console, this time selecting target ADW. We're going to run the same script that we ran on our ATP to generate the credentials in ADW. In case you still don't have that information on hand, a neat little trick is going back to our ATP, selecting SQL history, and here we can see our past run statements. This one here, line 7, begin DBMS cloud create, has our credential information. So you can right click, copy, and then we're back to our ADW. Go ahead and paste it in and run the script. To come back with our procedure successful, and just like we did the export data using EXP-DP, we're going to do a script to import the data using impdp. And same as before, we'll need to replace this, which again, if you do not have that URL, you can go back, grab it from there, and put it into your target. Go ahead and run that statement. Again, we get that huge block of red text. What we're looking for at the tail end there, final job state completed, job as completed. If you look a little further up, you'll see that it completed with 5 errors. This is totally fine. We can go ahead and ignore that. With the data pump now importing, we're going to go back to our GoldenGate console, log back in. This time we're going to add and run our Replicat. So selecting Replicat there, and then adding it. Similar to the extracts, we have a number of different Replicat types. At the top, we have our parallel replicats. This is a new variant of Replicat that applies to transactions in parallel, which allows the improvement of performance. Second, we have an integrated Replicat. This mode allows the Replicat process to leverage processing functionality that is available within the Oracle database. Third, we have a non-integrated Replicat, which is also known as our classic Replicat. So in classic mode, Replicat is a single-threaded process that uses standard SQL to apply data to the target tables. Now finally, the coordinated Replicat. In this mode, the Replicat process is threaded. One coordinator thread spawns and coordinates one or more threads that execute replicated SQL operations in parallel. For our lab today, we're going to select the non-integrated, also known as the classic, and we're going to name it REP, or Replicat. Our name will be E1, which is the same as the source trail file. Domain is GoldenGate. Alias will be our target. And then our checkpoint table that we previously created. The rest we'll leave as default. Again, we're going to switch on critical to deployment health. And then last thing we'll need to do is the setting for the Replicat parameter file. A little bit different from our extract. We're going to delete the last line and include the rest of the provided script because we have a map at the bottom we want to use. With that, we'll create and run. And in a few moments, you can see there, process name rep, status running. From here, the heavy lifting has been done, so we'll be able to monitor the extracts and replicats through the performance metrics server, as well as the GoldenGate metrics in the Cloud Console in the next lab. Moving on to lab 4, we're going to perform some inserts on our source database. So going back to our Cloud Console, or if you still have the worksheet open, go ahead and tab over to that. I'm going to go ahead and clear these. We're going to copy and paste this, which is going to insert a variety of values into our source database, and then commit them. We're going to go ahead and run the script. With that coming back successful, we're going to go back to our GoldenGate console. From here, we're going to expand extracts. And then from our extract, we're going to check the statistics. So there under table statistics, we can see that there were 10 inserts, which is exactly what the script we ran on our source did. Now going over to our Replicat, we're going to similarly look at statistics. So this is again our target ADW, meaning we ran our insert script on our source. But here we have the same table, same target table, with the same amount of inserts as our source. This confirms that we've set up our GoldenGate replication correctly. Now to monitor the performance of GoldenGate, we'll go over to the performance metrics service, select extracts, the specific process. Here you'll get a nice visual for different performance metrics, including process performance, thread performance. You also have status configuration, trail files, but what we're interested in specifically is database statistics. Here you can view the real-time database statistics of inserts, updates, deletes, so on and so forth. If you wanted to view these metrics through the Cloud Console, we'll go back, go to Observability and Management. Under Monitoring, we're going to do Metrics Explorer. From our Metrics Explorer page, we're going to go down to the Query section, and then go ahead and set our parameters, which will allow us to see our GoldenGate metrics. So OCI GoldenGate, the name we're looking for is extract lag. We're going to do deployment name, specifically GG's instance, and then we'll update the chart. That allows us to visualize our extract. Let's go ahead and add another query so we can also visualize our replicat. So same thing, GoldenGate. This time we're going to do replicat lag, deployment name, and then update our chart. We'll come back to the Metrics Explorer page before we close on out. We're going to leave it for 5 minutes so it'll update, and that way we can look at it more accurately. We're going to move on to the next lab, which is an optional lab about purging any unused trail files. For us to do that, we're going to go back to our GoldenGate console, administration, tasks, purge trail. So we're going to add purge trails tasks. You can give it a name, select your trail path or trail name. This instance we have E1. You have different options for your keep rule, whether it's a number of hours, days, or files. So selecting number of files, this indicates that we'll keep one trail file while all others are purged. And then we have our purge frequency, which again is hours or days. And this will indicate how often the purge task will run. So if we do hours, right now it'd be every hour. We can change it to every 5 hours or however we see fit. I'm not going to go ahead and submit it because we're going to go back and update our metrics page, but this is a good way to manage any unused trail files in your deployment. Trail files can certainly add up over time, which can hinder the performance of your deployment, so it's good to have this sort of guardrail set. Now, going back to our Metrics Explorer, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. On our Metrics Explorer page, now we have our updated visual. We can see the lag time of both our extract and our replicat. That concludes our lab, and I wanted to thank you for joining me on replicating data using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure GoldenGate.